A patrol car's dashcam flickers to black, yet the file reads equipment error. An officer's handwritten note disappears between two versions of the same report. A widow's request for answers meets silence, signatures, and a closed-door briefing. When the truth became inconvenient, someone decided it no longer belonged in the file. Somewhere between protocol and conscience, a single correction mark vanished. And with it, a man's entire account of what really happened that night. This is the story of how an investigation meant to expose wrongdoing slowly turned inward, trapping the one person who tried to make it right. Stay with me until the very end, and don't forget to tap like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Because what follows puts power on trial. The morning briefing at Maple County Sheriff's Department smelled of burnt coffee and duty. Sergeant Lyle Harper scanned the room, his badge dulled by 20 years of half-truths. On the screen, a fatal pursuit report scrolled past, subject deceased, officer cleared. He'd written those words himself 3 nights earlier, then spent hours wondering why his pen trembled. Deputy Carlos Mendez caught his eye. "You good, Sarge?" Harper nodded, but his stomach turned. Because he knew the dashcam hadn't malfunctioned, he'd seen the footage before it vanished. And someone higher up had called that deletion an administrative fix. After roll call, Harper lingered in the hallway. The janitor's cart squeaked past, echoing down linoleum like a metronome counting guilt. He opened the evidence room log, entry number 2471, missing signature. "Probably a clerical thing," the clerk said without looking up. Harper murmured thanks, pocketing the printout. The page smelled faintly of toner and panic. He slid it into his notebook under a grocery receipt, pretending it was nothing. But his pulse betrayed him, each beat whispered, "You signed that report." And every lie in that file now carried his name. At lunch, the station TV replayed the crash scene. News anchor, Sheriff's Department confirms full compliance with pursuit policy. Harper chewed his sandwich without tasting it. Beside him, Mendez whispered, "We both know he hit that kid's car, right?" Harper's jaw locked. "We followed procedure." Mendez exhaled. Procedure didn't bury a 22-year-old. The sentence landed heavier than any gavel. In the background, the sheriff's voice boomed from his office, end of discussion. Harper realized truth had just been replaced by command. He swallowed dry bread and the first hint of fear. Night shift. Harper sat alone reviewing patrol logs. A single flash drive lay under the keyboard, no label, just smudged fingerprints. He plugged it in. Static. Then a blur of red and white lights. A voice, "Stop the car." Crash. Silence. The timestamp matched the night of the incident. He copied the file to his phone and deleted the access log. For the first time, he was no longer covering for the department, he was investigating it. Truth rarely announces itself, it slips in through corrupted pixels and sleepless minds. Harper felt both guilty and alive. If he was wrong, he'd lose his badge. If he was right, he might lose much more. The next morning, the sheriff called for a policy review meeting. Inside the conference room, Harper noticed the IT technician avoiding his eyes. On the screen, the pursuit diagram was clean, too clean. No cross street, no traffic camera feed. He raised a hand. "Sir, there should be dash data from Unit 14. The sheriff smiled thinly. "Equipment error, remember?" The word echoed like a commandment. Meeting adjourned. As they filed out, the tech slipped a note into Harper's folder, "Check audit trail." Harper's heartbeat found a new tempo, one reserved for those about to cross a line. In the IT basement, servers hummed like distant bees. Harper logged in using an old training password. The audit trail showed 2 logins past midnight from admin ID 7B. He cross-checked the badge number, Lieutenant Donnelly. The same officer who led the pursuit. Harper printed the metadata and slipped it into his wallet. The paper was warm from the printer, like evidence of still bleeding heat. Above him, a door slammed. He closed the terminal and shut off the monitor just as footsteps approached. "Thought I heard someone down here," a voice said. Harper smiled. Just checking the system logs, sir. The footsteps paused, then faded away. Back home, Harper sat in the dark, the flash drive balanced on his palm. His wife, Dana, entered quietly. "You're shaking." He forced a smile. "Long day." She looked at the drive. "Is that what you're not telling me?" He hesitated. "If something happens, that's the truth." Dana placed her hand over his. "Then make sure it doesn't happen." Her eyes held both faith and fear, the two currencies of marriage to a cop. Harper nodded, but as she left, he slipped the drive into a coffee can beneath the sink. Even at home, truth was safer underground. The next day he met Mendez behind the precinct's motor pool. Engines idled, covering their voices. "I found proof the footage was deleted," Harper whispered. Mendez whistled softly. "You're gonna take this up the chain?" "I owe the dead kid that much." Mendez looked around. "Then you didn't hear this from me. Internal Affairs is already spinning it as driver error." Harper blinked. "They don't even have the tape. They don't need it. They have the sheriff." For a moment both men stood silent, hearing the same thing, justice shrinking under rank. Harper said quietly, "I'm not done yet." Neither was Fear. That night Harper drafted a memo to the district attorney. He worded it carefully, facts only, no accusations. Before sending, he saved a copy to his personal email. Minutes later, the station printer came to life on its own, spitting paper into the tray. At the bottom of the page was a new line, "Unauthorized access logged, user 7B." He stared at the screen. Someone was already watching his draft. He unplugged the printer, heart pounding. Outside, rain hammered the windows like an interrogation light. Harper whispered to himself, "They just confirmed it's real." When institutions begin to erase the truth, the first thing they monitor is the one who keeps records. Harper understood the risk and now had a return address. And it was his own desk. 2 days later, Harper was reassigned to records duty, a polite exile. The sheriff called it administrative rotation, but everyone knew what that meant. In the basement archive, fluorescent bulbs buzzed like nervous witnesses. He boxed old files while cameras blinked above him. A message slid under the door, "Stop digging. You're next." He knelt to pick it up, noticing boot prints in the dust. Someone had stood there long enough to make two perfect ovals. For the first time, Harper understood that exposure wasn't his only danger, survival now had to be planned. He pocketed the note beside the metadata printout. At lunch, Mendez found him behind the supply cage. "They're saying you accessed restricted data," Mendez whispered. Harper frowned. "They planted that log. IA's coming tomorrow." Harper sighed. "Then I'll show them the drive." Mendez grabbed his arm. "You won't get that chance. They'll seize your locker first." For a moment the hum of the vending machine was louder than either of them. Harper muttered, "Then I'll move it tonight." Reset number 2, tension hold, 0.5s silence. When Mendez left, Harper stayed frozen. He'd spent 2 decades enforcing other men's orders, now the only order left was "don't get caught." Night. He returned to the precinct under the pretext of retrieving his raincoat. Security guard nodded him through. Inside, he used the janitor's key to reach evidence lockers. He pulled a fresh envelope, labeled it audit material, do not file, and slid the flash drive inside. Then he tucked it behind case files from 2009, a graveyard no one visited. When he turned, the hallway camera light blinked red, recording. Harper looked straight into it. "If you're watching," he whispered, "remember this face." The next morning, that camera feed would be missing 32 seconds of footage. Internal Affairs arrived in unmarked suits. "Lead Agent, Sergeant Harper, you accessed restricted materials. Checking inconsistencies. Without authorization." Authorization disappeared at the same time as the evidence. Agent's pen tapped. "We're suspending you pending review." The sheriff stood behind them, arms crossed. "Turn in your weapon." The metallic click echoed like a verdict. Harper's badge felt heavier than ever. He placed it on the table, a tiny monument to conscience. Outside, reporters shouted questions he couldn't answer. Behind the blinds, he saw the sheriff speaking to cameras. The headline that night: Veteran Sergeant under investigation for tampering evidence. The truth had officially been rewritten. Dana watched the broadcast in silence. Harper entered, drenched from rain. "They're calling you corrupt," she whispered. He nodded. "Better corrupt than complicit." She pressed her forehead to his chest. "Then prove it." He exhaled. "That's what they're afraid of." Her phone buzzed. Unknown number, no voice, only breathing. She hung up trembling. Reputation dies first, long before the body follows. In Maple County, rumors travel faster than dispatch calls. Harper realized his silence had become their loudest evidence. Suspension meant isolation. Neighbors avoided eye contact, grocery clerks stopped small talk. He spent days reconstructing the report from memory. One phrase bothered him: officer re-engaged after visibility was restored. But visibility had never been lost. He circled the line and wrote, "Insert video gap here." Somewhere, that gap existed. He drove to the crash site at dusk. The road still bore faint skid marks, 2 sets. The second wasn't in any photo. He knelt, snapped a picture. Lightning flashed, rain began again, as if the storm itself had been waiting for him to return. At a diner off Route 9, Harper met a retired dispatcher named Elaine. She slid him coffee. "Heard you're chasing ghosts." He smiled weakly. "Looking for one called accountability." Elaine lowered her voice. "I archived call logs the night of that crash. One line got cut mid-pursuit." "Which unit?" 14. She scribbled a timestamp, 2241. After that, the phone line rerouted to the admin extension. Never happened before. Harper stared at the napkin. Another proof artifact, call interruption matching the missing footage. Elaine said softly, "Careful, Lyle. Ghosts don't like being named." He pocketed the napkin like a confession. Back home, Harper mapped connections, deleted footage. Admin ID 7B Lieutenant Donnelly rerouted call. Each arrow circled the same name, Sheriff Ray Donnelly. His stomach tightened. He printed copies, mailed one to a friend in the Attorney General's office. Then he waited. By midnight, headlights swept across his living room wall and vanished. Phone buzzed, unknown caller, leave it alone. He didn't. Reset pulse, music drops 0.8s silence. Harper whispered, "You blinked first." Outside, thunder answered. The battle line was now official, truth versus chain of command. Next morning, a brown envelope slid through his mail slot. Inside, a single photo of his wife leaving for work, and the words, "She deserves peace." He sat for minutes without breathing. When he called Dana, she was fine, unaware. He locked doors, loaded his off-duty pistol, and felt shame for it. Justice was no longer an idea, it was a siege. He photographed the threat and stored it beside the crash photo. 2 artifacts now, fear and proof. He whispered, "You're building my case for me." By Friday, his contact at the Attorney General's office called back. "Your package arrived, but the disk's blank." Harper's throat tightened. "Impossible. Maybe you mailed an empty copy." He hadn't. He opened his laptop, folders empty, drive unreadable. The virus icon blinked, clean sweep protocol, completed. His evidence had been remotely wiped. Power doesn't always silence you, sometimes it deletes the proof you built your courage on. Harper realized he'd moved from investigator to survivor. But survival still had one purpose: to testify later. Mendez arrived unannounced, eyes darting. "They're after me too." Harper poured coffee. "How far did you go?" "I backed up system logs, sent copies to my cousin on paper." Harper started. "A newspaper?" "Yeah. The Maple Ledger." Harper's voice steadied. Then you just gave the truth a microphone. Mendez nodded. If they shut us down, they'll have to silence the press too. For the first time, Harper smiled. Outside, sirens wailed unrelated, but both men turned anyway. Habit, guilt listening for itself. Inside, justice began to whisper louder than fear. The Ledger's editor, Sharon Price, called Harper that evening. I can't print without corroboration. You'll have it. Your partner says video exists. It did. Then find something that can survive court. Harper sighed. Give me a week. She paused. You have 3 days. Then this dies. He stared at the phone, calculating time like oxygen. He would need to outtrace the deletion trail, find the cloud backup. If admin 7B used the standard sync, fragments might remain. For the first time, Harper's police training had a new purpose, not to conceal, but to recover. He drove to the regional IT hub in Rochester, pretending to audit his suspension records. The clerk, Devon, recognized him from the news. Man, they did you dirty, Devon muttered. Harper leaned in. Need off-site sync logs from March 12th. Just metadata. Devon hesitated. You didn't get that from me. Within minutes, Harper held a printout of cloud access attempts, one successful, one failed. The failed one was from a civilian IP linked to the sheriff's home network. Proof artifact number 3. Harper looked at the timestamp and realized the sheriff deleted the video from his own living room. That night, Harper met Mendez at an abandoned rest stop. He laid out the printouts on the hood of his truck. This is an admin trail straight to Donnelly's router. Mendez grinned tiredly. You realize this makes us leak. Harper, then we leak loud. A truck passed, headlights flaring. When they dimmed, the printouts were gone. Wind had scattered them across the pavement like lost truths. Both men laughed, half mad, half free. Reset number 4, silence 0.8s ambient hum. Harper gathered the pages and said, tomorrow, we go public. For the first time since the crash, the night felt clean. Morning news headline, Sheriff under federal inquiry. Sharon Price's article ran with backup copies Devon secretly sent. Within hours, federal investigators arrived. Harper and Mendez were summoned to testify. The sheriff resigned for health reasons. Outside the courthouse, Harper faced cameras. No one wins in this, he said, but at least the record stands. Dana watched from the crowd, tears mixing with rain. Flashbulbs fade, music drops to silence. Institutions bleed slowly, but truth is antiseptic. Harper lost his career, yet found his name again in the footnotes of integrity. The system had erased a file, but not the man who remembered what it said. The hearing room smelled of paper and disinfectant, justice in its most sterile form. Federal Agent Kim held up Exhibit A, the metadata chain Harper retrieved from Rochester. Mr. Harper, is this the document you obtained? He nodded. Were you instructed to destroy any evidence? No, ma'am. I was instructed not to look. Murmurs rippled through the benches. On the opposite table, Donnelly's lawyer objected, citing irrelevance. The judge overruled. The truth finally had a seat at the microphone. Harper exhaled, realizing that courage doesn't always sound brave, it sometimes just sounds steady. Outside the courthouse, reporters clustered like crows. Sergeant Harper, did you leak department data? He paused. I released what belonged to the people. Cameras flashed. Sharon Price mouthed, perfect sound bite. Yet Harper's hands shook. He'd traded 20 years of quiet obedience for a single afternoon of noise. A boy in the crowd held up a sign, Truth Matters. Harper almost smiled. Behind him, Mendez whispered, You think they'll charge us? Harper answered, Maybe. But they'll have to quote the evidence we saved. Every flashbulb was another affidavit signed in light. Later that night, Sharon uploaded the full dashcam clip to Ledger's server. Frame 142 revealed it, Donnelly's cruiser striking the victim's rear bumper. Timestamp 2241, exactly Elaine's call log moment. Artifact 1 paid in full. She called Harper, "It's live." He whispered, "Then the county finally has eyes." Within hours, the clip reached national news. Comment sections divided, hero or traitor? But one headline read, "Officer's Integrity Exposes Cover-Up." Harper printed it, folded it twice, and slid it into his wallet where his badge once lived. The sheriff's attorney issued a statement. All actions taken were within departmental procedure. The video has been misinterpreted. Harper replayed the clip again, counting frames. Procedure couldn't erase physics. Dana watched from the doorway. "You think they'll jail him?" "Not for truth," Harper said, "just for embarrassment." She smiled sadly. "Then make sure he's humiliated publicly." He almost laughed. It was the first joke they'd shared in weeks. Outside, sirens wailed, a reminder that justice travels in the same cars that once hid lies. Federal inquiry expanded. Agents raided Donnelly's home network, same IP, same deletion log. Reset number 5, music fades, pure dialogue. Agent Kim read the printout aloud. Clean sweep protocol executed manually. She looked up. "That's obstruction." Harper stayed silent, watching the sheriff's photograph come down from the precinct wall. For years he'd saluted that frame every morning. Now it leaned face down on a desk, glass cracked through the word "honor." He whispered, "Guess we're even." Truth had stopped bleeding, it had started cutting. Court transcripts spread online faster than the department's PR could contain them. Mendez texted, "We made it past the firewall." Harper replied, "Keep backups outside the county." He no longer trusted institutions, only redundancy. Systems collapsed quietly, like hard drives failing at dawn. Yet somewhere, an honest line of code survives. Harper understood now that every whistleblower isn't trying to destroy the system, they're trying to reboot it. A congressional aide called. "They're drafting reform bills on digital evidence retention." Harper blinked. All because of Maple County? Because of the pattern your case revealed. He hung up, numb. The story had left his control, growing teeth and statutes. Dana whispered, "Maybe this is what redemption looks like." He answered, "Redemption still needs witnesses." Outside, snow began to fall, tiny erasers over a dirty world. Elaine mailed him a sealed envelope marked "Do Not Copy." Inside was the original 911 recording she'd kept by accident. The missing seconds played, radio static, then Donnelly's voice, "Delete unit feed, command chain only." Artifact 2 paid. Harper closed his eyes. Proof no longer needed context, it had tone. He forwarded it to Agent Kim with one line, "Chain complete." Her reply, "Understood. You just gave us obstruction plus tampering." Harper leaned back, exhausted. Justice wasn't swift, it was methodical, like typing a report that finally ends on page 10. In Washington, hearings streamed live. A senator held up Harper's affidavit. "This demonstrates systemic vulnerability." Viewers flooded comment sections with #audit every file. Harper watched from his couch, holding Dana's hand. Mendez called, laughing. "We're memes now." "Hope they spell our names right," Harper said. Behind the humor lay fatigue, the kind earned by outlasting bureaucracy. He muted the TV when Donnelly appeared on screen in handcuffs. Silence suited the moment better than applause. Dana framed the headline, "Sheriff Donnelly indicted." She hung it where his badge once gleamed. "Feels lighter," she said. Harper nodded. "It should. Justice never returns the years you spent afraid, it just refunds your sleep." For the first time in months, Harper slept through the night, proof folded under his pillow like a promise kept. Reset number 6, soundscape drops to rain on the window. Harper testified before a federal ethics panel. One senator asked, "Would you do it again?" He thought. "Yes, but sooner." Dana squeezed his shoulder. Outside, reporters murmured, the whistleblower became a reform hero. He smiled faintly. Hero felt like paperwork for the conscience. He'd rather be called accurate. Truth didn't need medals, it needed maintenance. Weeks later, Harper visited the crash victim's mother, Mrs. Holloway. Her small house smelled of lavender and thyme. She handed him a photograph. "My son wanted to join the academy." Harper's throat closed. "I'm sorry it took this long." She touched his hand. "He can rest now." When he left, snow still fell. Each flake looked like a file restored. Before turning evidence over to archives, Agent Kim returned Harper's flash drive. "We cloned it for record." He plugged it in one last time. The screen showed checksum OK, integrity verified. Artifact 3 paid. He smiled. The file finally survived the system. Kim nodded. "You did too." He erased his local copy, then closed the laptop. Some truths, once secured, deserve peace, not possession. At home, Harper resumed ordinary life, mowing lawns, grocery runs, answering polite stares. Neighbors now nodded again, apology in their eyes. One asked, "You back on duty?" Harper smiled. "Different kinds." He volunteered at a legal aid center teaching civilians how to request public records. If institutions fear transparency, make it common practice. Every signature he helped file felt like another camera turned back on. 1 year later, the Ledger ran a follow-up, State implements Harper Protocol for evidence integrity. Harper read it quietly at dawn. Dana set coffee beside him. "You changed policy." He shook his head. "We just reminded it what honesty looks like." Outside, morning light filled the kitchen, the same light that once illuminated his fear. Truth, when documented, becomes infrastructure. It no longer needs heroes, only custodians. Harper realized he'd spent years chasing a single file, only to find the real record was his own decision to sign his name beneath it. Spring returned to Maple County. The precinct's new chief invited Harper to a ceremony honoring ethical service. He stood at the back, unshaven, blending with civilians. When his name was called, he didn't move. The applause felt hollow, like paperwork pretending to be gratitude. Mendez accepted on his behalf, raising the plaque. Harper stepped outside into sunlight that didn't need witnesses. The world had rotated without him, and somehow that felt right. Reset number 7 ambient hum drops to quiet wind. Dana found him sitting on their porch, bad-shaped tan line still on his palm. "You never picked it up," she said. He shrugged. "Plaques fade. Systems reboot." She smiled. "But truth doesn't expire." They watched the street, children rode bikes, sirens distant but ordinary. For once, authority sounded like laughter. Harper whispered, "Maybe justice isn't loud after all." The line between fear and peace finally blurred. A local college invited him to speak on evidence integrity. He began, "Documentation is moral memory. Lose it, and the future forgets lessons." Students scribbled notes. One asked, "Were you scared?" He smiled. "Still am. Courage isn't absence of fear, it's record-keeping in motion." Applause gentle, real. Afterward, a young cadet said, "Sir, I joined because of your story." Harper looked at the floor, humbled. He realized the next generation might inherit honesty as their standard operating procedure. Back at home, a letter arrived from Agent Kim. Case closed. Federal reform bill passed unanimously. A single line below, "Thank you for your service to the truth." He read it twice, folded it into the same wallet where the folded headline lived. The badge slot was still empty, but not vacant, it now held purpose. He whispered, "That's enough." Outside, lawn sprinklers hissed like static, an echo of old recordings now replaced by living sound. He visited Elaine's diner. She poured coffee. "You look lighter. Maybe I finally clocked out." She nodded. "Truth's a long shift." He laughed softly. Every investigation ends twice, once on paper, and once inside the soul. Harper realized forgiveness wasn't owed by others, it was self-issued through endurance. The past was filed, the present properly labeled, peace active. Sharon Price's documentary premiered on national TV. Title card, When Truth Wasn't in the File. Viewers saw reenactments, pixelated footage, Harper's real testimony. Social feeds flooded, #Harper Protocol trending. He switched off the television halfway through. Dana asked, "Don't you want to see the ending?" He smiled. "I lived it." Sometimes closure means turning off the replay before credits roll. Reset number 8, music dips to a low heartbeat pulse. A storm rolled through that night, same as the one a year ago. Thunder shook the windows. Harper opened the old coffee can under the sink, the original flash drive still inside. He held it up to lightning's flicker, then set it gently in the trash. Deletion, this time, was voluntary. Truth no longer needed hiding. The storm eased to rain, the same rhythm that began his awakening. Weeks later, he and Dana drove past the crash site. A small memorial stood there, fresh flowers, new paint on the guardrail. A note taped beneath read, "For those who tell the truth even when it hurts." Harper touched it briefly, whispering, "We heard you." Then he let the wind lift the paper away into freedom, not loss. Dana said, "Ready to go home?" He nodded. Finally. They spent Sunday morning gardening. Soil under his nails felt better than gunmetal ever did. Mendez dropped by with coffee. "You ever missed it?" Harper shook his head. "I still wear the uniform, just invisible now." They laughed. Justice doesn't retire, it simply changes departments. For Harper, every seed planted was another affidavit for life continuing. He'd once measured duty in arrests, now he measured it in honesty per acre. Evening. Harper sat on his porch, the horizon washed gold. The camera lingered on his profile, calm, unguarded. This story is inspired by true events. Certain details have been changed for privacy and respect. If you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, subscribe to this channel and never miss the next case where truth prevails.